Hello, everyone. My name is Ryan Rosetta, and I'm going to be talking about two influential figures in the field of psychology today, Albert Bandura and Leon Festinger. Albert Bandura's early life was he was born in Mundare, Canada on December 4th, 1925. Mundare, Canada was a very small town with a population of 400. His father was a Polish immigrant that worked laying tracks for the Trans Canada Railroad, along with being involved in the Mundare School Board. His mother was a Ukrainian immigrant that worked at the general goods store. Albert Bandura was the youngest child with five older sisters, one of which died 4 or 5 years before he was born during a flu pandemic. His earlier education was at Mundare Public School, which served as an elementary, middle, and high school. There wasn't many staff or resources, so the students were mostly self-taught. During this time, he worked at a furniture manufacturing plant in Edmonton, as well as upkeeping the Alaska Highway in Whitehorse, Canada. He did these jobs during the summer, typically. With the support of his parents, who were both very much supportive of higher education, he attended University of British Columbia. During this time, he'd go to school early in the day, and then he would work at a woodworking plant later on. He was a biological sciences major, but due to scheduling, he had to carpool early in the morning, which led to him taking an extracurricular course in psychology. He immediately fell in love with it and switched majors, graduating with a degree in psychology in 1949, and he received the Bulletin Psychology Award. Later, he was quoted in an article that he wrote saying the psychology of chance encounters and life paths. What this quote basically meant is that putting yourself out there leads to more opportunities for more good to come in your life. So you just have more chances for a better outcome or a better path in life. His education continued. He attended a graduate study program at University of Iowa in 1949. Kenneth Spence was the head of the psychology program at University of Iowa at this time, who was a former student of Clark Hall and had close ties to Yale University, so they would often exchange research data and information with each other, University of Iowa and Yale. Kurt Lewin was also conducting research at the University of Iowa at this time, though him and Bandura never really worked together on anything in a professional setting. A hot topic in research during this time in the University of Iowa, but also other universities, was the fundamental problems of learning. This was around the time when Brown versus Board of Education was going on and the Dahl test was going on, so they were looking into just how education could be improved. Um, Clark Hall was researching psychology of learning through a Freudian lens at this time, while other people were starting to look at different lenses and different ways to understand how learning and behavior works. Bandura received a master's degree in 1951 and a PhD in 1952. He studied other Arthur Benton during the time when he received these degrees. His later career in life, he became married to Virginia Varn shortly after getting his PhD in 1952. He had two daughters, Mary, born in 1954, and Carol, born in 1958. He joined the faculty of Stanford University in 1953. He was heavily influenced by Robert Sears, the chair of the psychology department at Stanford University at the time. He began research on social learning and aggression with aid of his first doctoral student, Richard Walters. Continued researching and teaching at Stanford University until 2010, so 57 years of being a faculty member before he retired. He passed away peacefully in his sleep in 2021. Bandura is a very well known and respected figure in the field of psychology. A lot of awards were given to him, and a lot of things he was known for was the Bobble doll experiment, social modeling, social cognitive theory, self efficacy, president of the APA, or American Psychological Association in 1974, honorary president of the Canada Psychological Association in 1974, and a founding member of the Association for the Advancement of Psychology in 1974 as well, and then president of the Western Psychological Association in 1981. He had 20 honorary degrees, received more awards as well. Not more than 20, but here's a picture of him receiving a scientific reward for his contributions to the field of psychology. He's receiving it from Barack Obama. Down here is him with his two grandsons, Tim and Andy. They're twins, actually. Onto the Bobo doll experiment. So, this experiment was to better understand how social impacts a child's behavior or just behavior in general. The idea of the study is a child would witness an adult model enact aggression on a Bobo doll. The first variation was they watched it live. Second variation, they watched it through film. Then third variation, they'd watch it live. But then a researcher would come in and talk to the adult model, either praising them or punishing them. Once that was done, the child was then placed into a room with toys before the toys were all taken away. This was meant to upset the child and cause an aggression response. And then the child would be left alone in the room with the Bobo doll and observed to see how they react in this hopefully aggressive state. Same-sex models were more likely to influence aggression behavior in children. So if a boy witnessed a man being aggressive, they were more likely to be aggressive. And if a female watched a grown woman be aggressive, she was more likely to be aggressive as well. Boys showed aggression behavior more often. And then when they introduced the reward and punishment, female candidates, or participants, not candidates, female participants were more influenced by the punishment and would not enact aggressive behavior after seeing the punishment in comparison to males. Reinforcement, praise did not increase likelihood of the behavior, while punishment, scold, did decrease the likelihood of the behavior. And then two theories that came along with this research and other research he conducted is the social cognitive theory, the idea that behaviors are influenced by an individual's own beliefs as well as observations of their environment and how it responds to their behavior. So an idea of this is basically this triangle is interlinked. And the example I'm giving is if a student or a child believes funny people are popular, this may cause him to behave by disrupting the class to say or do something funny, and then the class responds positively, supporting this belief and reinforces the behavior, which then in turn supports his belief, which then in turn makes the behavior happen or believed to happen more often. And it's just kind of a never-ending circle, where as long as the behavior is supported, it will most likely continue to keep happening. The other theory he showed was social learning theory. Social modeling is another name for it. The concept that individuals will observe behaviors of influential figures in their environment, internalize the observed behavior to attempt to understand it. Then they would later imitate the behavior and respond to the environmental feedback of reward or punishment. So basically, it's the idea that children will mimic things they see, and then if it is rewarded or received positively, they will continue the behavior and be more likely to do it more often. But if it's punished, then it often deters the behavior. Depending on it can get sticky because reward and punishment can be confusing, and the way they are used has to be very specific to have reliable results. Anyways, He was a huge influence in shifting away from behaviorism and Skinner's operant conditioning. Nothing was wrong with Skinner's operant conditioning, but this just offered new insight on those weren't the only things influencing how someone behaved. He went against Freud and Hall's theories and beliefs, and then he helped provide a better understanding of behavioral influences for the fields of psychology, such as clinical, education, organizational. There's other fields as well that this impacted. Now on to Leon Festinger. His early life, he was born in Brooklyn, New York on May 8th, 1919. His father and mother were both Russian Jewish immigrants. He attended an all-boys high school in Brooklyn during the Great Depression, and his early education consisted of receiving a bachelor's in psychology from the City College of New York, 1935 to 1939. Fun fact, this is actually a same college that Kenneth Clark taught at, but he taught at it in 1941, so they weren't quite there at the same time. He studied child behavior under Kurt Lewin in 1940 to 1942, receiving a master's and a PhD from the University of Iowa, same college as Bandura, and spent an additional time there as an associate underneath Kurt Lewin in 1941 to 1943. Left University of Iowa to work as a statistician for the Committee on the Selection and Training of Aircraft Pilots at University of Rochester during World War II. After that, he got married to Mary Oliver Ballou, and then they had 3 children, one being named Catherine, Richard, and Kurt. I would assume Kurt might be in reference to Kurt Lewin because he plays a huge role in Festinger's life, but I'm not 100% sure. He left the University of Rochester to work as an assistant professor at the Research Center for Group Dynamics at MIT. This was founded by Kurt Lewin in 1945. Around 1941, or 1947, my apologies, Kurt Lewin passed away, and Festinger became the new supervisor for, I'd say, a short period of time, but actually went on for a fairly long time, because it went on until 1947 or it went on to 1948, and they moved the program to the University of Michigan, so it did continue just in a different setting. And this went on until 1951, when he dropped out of the program, and him, along with one of his research assistants, Stanley Schachter, moved to the University of Minnesota, where they continued their research and published another book, 1951 through 1955. Festinger then moved to Stanford University, same university Bandura worked most of his life at, where he published his social comparison theory and cognitive dissonance theory. These are the 2 biggest theories he's known for, especially cognitive dissonance, but there's a few others that I will make note of. So his life and career continued. He received a Distinguished Scientific Contribution Award from the APA in 1959. Divorced Mary Oliver Ballou, marrying Trudy Bradley in 1968. He would leave the field of psychology multiple times, taking a leave of absence. I think it was 2 or 3 times over this 19-year period. And then finally closed his psychology lab in 1983. After retiring from psychology, he became interested in prehistoric archaeology and studied alongside paleontologist and historian Stephen Jay Gould. He wrote his last book, The Human Legacy, which discussed the development of complex societies and the use of primitive tool making, and then passed away due to cancer in 1989. So his biggest key things to take away is proximity effect. We won't be discussing this or informal social communication today because time, but social comparison theory and cognitive dissonance. He was believed to play a big role in integrating laboratory experimentation into the field of social psychology. People were already conducting research in this field, but he just really wanted to make it data and hard facts. before I go on, I just want to say one thing. One of his biggest regrets is he just felt like he didn't provide enough to the field of psychology, even though he spent so much of his life on it. And he just wished he had more time to research and provide more. All right, social comparison theory. This theory believed that people had an innate desire to evaluate themselves, which is typically done through comparing themselves to others. Today, this is common day knowledge. Everyone basically knows that we do this, but thanks to Festinger, people started to realize it, and that's part of the reason why it's common day knowledge today. Two forms is upward social comparison, so comparing yourself to someone of a higher standing. Either it's intelligence, physical appearance, skill, popularity, wealth. It can be basically anything. You see someone that you think is better than you, and it helps you strive to meet a new goal. The opposite is downward social comparison, when you compare someone to someone that's lower than you, and it makes you feel better about yourself, but it doesn't motivate you as much. Another thing is cognitive dissonance, the concept that a person feels discomfort when their knowledge, beliefs, or values conflict with each other, leading the individual to take actions to reduce the dissonance. This can lead to the individual forcing a justification for their beliefs or avoiding situations or information that could increase the dissonance. So a common go-to example of this is the idea that basically if someone's a smoker, if they hear that smoking causes lung cancer, then they will have the conflict of they want to keep smoking, but it will shorten their life, and they might justify it through crazy memes such as Uncle Tommy has been smoking all of his life. He smoked 2 packs a day for the last 60 years, and he's 80 years old, and he's still alive today. I'll be fine. Another fun thing that came out of this is Dorothy Martin apocalyptic cult. They surveyed a cult or researched a cult that a woman believed that the world was going to flood, so she had all of the members of the cult sell all of their worldly possessions and give the money to her. Big surprise, the world did not flood, nothing happened, and people were not happy with her. Another thing was the cognitive dissonance dollar experiment. This was another way you proved cognitive dissonance. So connections to the class. Social cognitive theory showed that behaviorism, along with the theories of Freud and Skinner, did not fully understand all the underlying mechanics or of influences on behavior. So basically, like, there was other things playing into the idea of what causes someone to behave in a certain way that we just weren't taking into account before. The use of social cognitive theory and social learning theory are still in many fields of psychology to this day. It is a very important thing to take note of. Kurt Lewin's influence on Festinger and the field of cognitive and social psychology. Kurt Lewin was a huge influence in psychology in general, and a lot of it rubbed off on Festinger and helped inspire a lot of his research. And then social comparison theory. This, I believe, related to the Brown v. Board and the doll test idea, because like comparing oneself to another, it's the idea of when they looked at the dolls and how they saw themselves in the dolls. Anyways, I'm out of time. These are my references. Hopefully you enjoyed the presentation. Here's some more references, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.